Hello everyone, and welcome to Building the US Workforce of the Future and Reducing the Skills Gap Through Digital Transformation, a Times Higher Education webinar in partnership with Alteryx. My name is Julia Gilmore. I'm the Branded Content Manager for EMEA and the Americas at Times Higher Education, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. Please note that a recording of today's webinar will be available on demand, along with a summary article on the Times Higher Education website in due course. It'll also be sent to you. Should you wish to revisit this discussion or share it on social media or with colleagues, which we really do encourage. I'm delighted to be joined today by our panel of experts from academia and industry. So allow me to introduce Jason Belland, Global Vice President for Sparked at Alteryx, Sarah Eisenberg, Transportation Labor Planning Senior Program Manager at Amazon Transportation Services, Sridhar Sundaram, Dean of the College of Business and Economics at California State University, Fullerton. And thank you all so much for joining today. Those of you in the audience will be able to put questions to the panel using the Q&A box provided. We'll aim to answer some of these during the session, but there'll also be a chance in the last 5 to 10 minutes or so to get your questions in. Whilst the US is home to some of the best educational institutions in the world, employers are voicing increased concern about the widening graduate skills gap. Universities need to ensure that the demands of the workforce, including so-called soft skills, are embedded into curricula to offer their graduates the greatest chance of success, in turn boosting institutional accomplishment. Before we begin our discussion, I'm going to ask our panelists to tell us a little bit more about themselves and their backgrounds. So Sri, I'm going to go to you first.
Thank you, Julia. It is such a pleasure to have a global audience today for this important topic. Very quickly about my background. As Julia said, my name is Sri Sundaram, Dean for the College of Business and Economics at Cal State University of Fullerton. We're a university of a little over 40,000 students and a college of about 9,000 students. We have a tremendous amount of diversity. About 50% of our students have a Hispanic heritage, another 25% have an Asian heritage, and about a third of our students are first generation. As we look at, as a dean, as I'm looking at our students, one of the key things is how do we prepare the students best possible way for a world that is becoming more and more digitally equipped. 90% of the data that's created in the last 2 to 3 years. So we're looking at our curriculum to see what can we do from a curriculum standpoint, but also co-curricular activities to help them grow, not also from a skill set but also from a personal growth. We want to make sure that they're ready to go work with the Sarah Eisenbergs and Jason Belland and other companies. So that is our goal. And we're challenged with the tremendous amount of dynamism that we see in the real world. And how do we prepare them, both from a skill set as well as making sure we equip them enough to be ready for today's world. So with that, I want to pass it on back to you, Julia. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sarah, do you want to tell us about yourself and your background?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited about this panel and just the discussion that we'll have. My name is Sarah Eisenberg. I currently lead transportation labor planning at Amazon. I lead a team of 20 talented managers and analysts, and we plan labor. While we plan labor at Amazon, I like to think of our team as an analytics team because that's really what we're doing. My team is made up of many diverse backgrounds, diverse educational backgrounds, and just career experiences. I went to St. Mary's College. It's an all-women's college in Notre Dame, Indiana, and I studied communication. Prior to Amazon, I spent about 6 years in commercial real estate, initially really starting out in admin and coordinator type roles before joining a site selection consulting team as a supply chain analyst. And there I was really kind of introduced to data and introduced to modeling and really using data to drive major business decisions around real estate. And that's actually how I got introduced to Alteryx and really why I am where I am today. So it's that experience that brought me to Amazon. I've spent the last 4 years at Amazon in transportation labor planning and really built the program from the ground up. And just one more thing I want to just reiterate, I'm representing myself today. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my own experiences, not representing Amazon.
Thank you, Sarah. Jason, over to you.
Awesome, Julia, thank you. I'll just start with some gratitude here. We have an amazing panel and so grateful to have this opportunity to connect with you and connect with the audience that's here with us today. And Sarah, thank you for sharing your story. I'll share a little bit of mine as well. I'm a liberal arts major working at an analytics company. Who would have ever thought that could happen? But it really speaks to, I think, this moment that we are in history here, where things are changing and pivoting, where analytics is no longer only the domain of a select few, but really needs to be a skill like many other skills that we all have access to as we run whatever business it is that we're running. So that's one of the reasons, and really the driving reason, why I'm excited to lead the Sparked Education program at Alteryx, where we are focused on democratizing analytics for all. And that means connecting with faculty and deans and college leaders across every discipline across institutions, connecting with learners at every stage of their learning journey, from 18-year-old students to 48-year-old students who are pivoting in their career, and also working with some amazing organizations like Amazon and our 9,000 global customers at Alteryx to help them connect opportunities they have with learners who have analytic skills. I'm really excited to have Sri and Sarah on the panel, because we are in a very pivotal and important moment here, and it's really important that we make sure we're connecting with all learners and creating opportunities for all learners, even those who maybe didn't think of themselves as having analytics in their toolkit or analytics as a career, but really opening up minds and opening up career opportunities and pathways. And that's going to happen through partnerships with wonderful individuals who see this vision, like Sarah and Sri. So thank you for being here today.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. And I'd like to kick off this discussion by asking, how can you identify the most critical skills gaps for US graduates, according to both educators and employers? So, Sri, I'm going to go to you first because you're on top of my screen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Julia. I think, one of the first things we educators are looking around is to say, talking to our employers. So it is the first conversation we have, and I'll just give you a very, simple example. Our accounting firms, we have a school of accountancy that caters to not only the big four, but all the accounting firms here, and they work with data on a continuous basis. So the key question that comes about for us is that, how do we, in the context of accounting, help our students become more savvy in technology and the use of data to help with informed decision making, or in this case, continuous audit rather than a discrete audit that we do on a yearly basis? How do we make sure we create a system that allows you to look at and saying, this is within the parameters of deviations, here are some red flags, let's just look at the red flags we're looking at. So the ability to provide that opportunity for our students is not only that to look at data, understand data, the ability to look at and clean the data so that when we are doing examinations or analysis, when the results come out, they have a good understanding if the results make sense or not, because that's important. So the ability to ask the right questions, the context in which the results come out, does it make sense? The ability to interpret that, and then use that to have a meeting to be able to say, here's informed decision-making recommendation we're able to provide. I think that's what we need to be able to do that. It's difficult for us to do it alone. So we are happy to work with, for example, Alteryx, so that helps us with the training aspects of it, provides us with the software and connects us with clients such as Sarah and Amazon and others, that gives them a context within which we're able to teach them. And then co-curricular things such as the datathon or the credentials that they get. So they are able to put that on their LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm more competitive because of the additional skill set I've gained. So that's what we're looking at, is saying, what is the skill set that the employers need? And how can we work with partners that helps us bring the context to it? Because we cannot do it alone in the classroom. It has to be both curricular, but also co-curricular things we can do along with partners. And I think that's how we're able to, what I call as a complete graduate, give them all the skill set that they need, but also the context and the ability to kind of interpret those and be able to ready for the workforce of tomorrow. So I know I have both Jason and Sarah would love to jump in on that, but that's what we're trying to do.
And Sri, can I just, Julia, if I could just mention something, I think it's just worth underlining some of what Sri just said here. Shri, you were just talking about students questioning what they see with data. And this is just so critical right now that the data itself is not the silver bullet. It's about the people around the data and being able to ask the interesting questions and challenge what they're seeing in the data and kind of go back to that, and then storytell around what they're seeing to bring together coalitions of individuals across any company to actually get things done. So I think it's just, I love what you're saying. It's so important that we don't exclusively focus on the tool or the skill of the data, but all of the other pieces around that. Sometimes I guess the soft skills are really the hard skills, so that we can have these conversations. And I love that. To me, that just speaks to data education, data literacy being critical, and also part of a holistic education experience that builds the whole student, essentially, who can then provide value to an organization on day one.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. In my experience, the software and the tools are all learnable. The resources are there. It's easy to pick up. Tools like Alteryx have a wealth of resources for learning available. So the resources exist to learn, and it's really agnostic to like the tools or software. However, the ability and the experience of having used data to drive decision making is really what I look for. I'm looking for graduates who understand how to use data to drive decision making, who've used data to truly discern insights and make recommendations. Really, like if we can instill use cases that are applicable to like business today, I have no shortage of business problems to solve. And so when I'm talking with graduates or potential people joining my team, like I'm looking for that experience using data to drive insights, to make business recommendations, and really like understand the data and just driving insights.
Definitely. And this is more a question for Shri, I guess, but I think both of our other panelists will have an input on this. How can you embed these workplace skills into curricula across departments? We've touched on the fact that, you know, you could be a sort of a liberal arts major or an accountancy major. You need these skills. So how do we ensure that they're embedded? And what are the challenges?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so, Julia, what we really are looking at is there's got to be a foundation. So we need to make sure that every student that's coming through our college gets that foundation knowledge on understanding data, and then understanding some basic tools that they work with, and the ability to do some basic analysis. I think that's a critical part of the foundation we provide. Now, right after that, what we have is a task force that is actually looking at each of the discipline. For example, if you look at marketing is a good example, there is so much data being gathered. One of our students had an internship where they're looking at social influencers and saying, how do we make payments based upon the impact that they have? Very fascinating. That's a lot of data there, but how do you come up with a framework and a model to look at and say the impact that they have, they capture it? And so to teach them the basic idea of even looking at the data. Now you have both structured data as well as you have not structured data. So and so the ability to take both of those and use that as an example and give them a context to do that is what we're trying to do within each of the discipline. So you will have a marketing analytics course. We would have a accounting analytics course that builds upon this foundation. And the last part of it is that what we're also looking at is that those, again, we have to graduate them in 4 years or as soon as possible. And, and so we cannot do everything within the classroom. So how do we give those opportunities for them outside the classroom, but also show them that this is what makes them competitive in the workplace. So there's a payoff, there's an incentive that they're able to see. And so that's where I think the combination with working with Alteryx to get a credential, a micro credential, that they can put it out there, or to get an internship with Sarah, and so they can learn the context and learn from a mentor that helps them say, hey, here's a storytelling that's equally important where the data becomes critical. The last thing I'm going to say is that we also have three different types of audience that we work with. You have the traditional 19-year-old that comes through the high school and goes through us, that requires slightly different way, where they're very smart, they can pick up the skill set, where we focus a little bit more on, understanding the context, because they may not have the necessary experience. Then we have the non-traditional students, or students who are coming through the community college who are working already, and they really need the ability to be able to say, I understand the context, but let me get the skill set that allows me to, do the analysis and the decision making. And the last one is really what I call is the lifelong learning, where we really are looking at it saying, there are many companies, many executives who have come through, and they work with data scientists. The data scientists may not have the full knowledge about the functional area, and vice versa. How do we bring them together to kind of help facilitate that and saying, here's what the decision making that can help your performance in your organization. So those are the three things we're doing. So with that, I want to give the opportunity to my colleagues here to talk more about it. So,
well, and Sri, sorry, I just want to pick up on a couple of things that you were saying here. I made a bunch of notes here. I'm curious what you're doing, but also you're part of the Cal State system. You're engaged with many others. What are you just kind of hearing from your colleagues as well, as in terms of I think the reality now of that the degree should be, in many cases, complemented by certificates, especially as one over a course of a lifetime of learning, you have a kind of that foundational degree, but then you start adding on top of that, maybe with other degrees or certificates or other kinds of credentials. Obviously, Alteryx plays a part in that. I'm curious what's the conversation you're having with other academic leaders about what this kind of portfolio approach looks like, and then maybe I'm curious from Sarah's side, on the employer side, how she's kind of looking at that as a hiring manager.
I'm happy to. So Jason, that's a great question. And the quick analogy I'm going to give you is, several years ago, we did this with ethical decision making, ethics becoming a key part of what we're trying to accomplish. And now, as you look at the business deans group, or when you look at globally, we recognize technology and data is a critical part of what we need to embed in the classroom and ability to build a skill set. So we're all looking at multiple approaches of bringing that knowledge and skill set to our students, because we feel like the intentional effort, in a few years, this becomes very much an integrated part of what's happening with ethics is going to be a big part of it. The last thing I'm also going to say is that the generation we're dealing with, Jason, the Gen Z, very much are also asking us to say, okay, tell me how's the impact I'm making? What's the social impact to that? So we're also looking at data to see how can we be a force for good. So that's another aspect which I think I'm passionate about is, as a state university, we are not only preparing talent, but we're also committed to the community we live. So in many ways, we're able to bring that together also to create this talent that was not only serve as a talent for the workforce, but also doing good in the community. So Sarah, with that, I want to pass it on to you. So
I love that. I think it's so important to, of course, use data for good, but also just that students understand that they can use data to make an impact. I empower my team every day as storytellers. We are telling a story. We are using data to tell the story that we wanted to tell. Like when we look at what the data in front of us, like, does this data tell the story that we anticipated? Is it telling the story that we wanted it to tell? Do we need to look at the data differently? I also empower my managers to remain analysts. I myself look at myself as an analyst still today. I use data to drive every decision that I'm making. And for my team at Amazon, these are major business decisions that we're making using data, using modeling. How I ask them, like, how do we anticipate the questions of the leaders? How do you think about yourself as a leader in the business? Every decision that we're making has an impact, and if we're not using data to drive that decision making, there are associated risks. So we currently plan labor, but truly we could plan anything. It's really agnostic to like industry. Like what you were saying, using data for good, but I I would love for students to know that like it's not necessarily industry specific. Like you can take what you've learned related to data and go towards any industry. All businesses today have problems that we're looking to solve, and all leaders are looking to solve those problems with data. So I just encourage all to just think like that. Like it's not necessarily industry specific, and really just using data to drive the decision making, to make recommendations, to solve problems, really using data to enable better business strategies. If students can truly like derive that insight from the data, they can do anything. They can be in any industry. Data skills are so transferable. To me, major or industry or background doesn't really matter if I can truly understand that graduates have used data to really drive insights and business recommendations before. Like that's truly what I'm looking for. And then just really importantly, people potentially know this, but Amazon is really a writing culture. We are so founded on document writing. Our meetings are driven by doc reading, doc reviewing, and doc feedback. And so to me, it is so important that, first of all, my team can use data to drive a narrative and really just build data into the narrative, and then also be able to communicate that, answer hard questions, and anticipate questions. So really the ability to do that is so important and so critical around data analytics, like the communication portion of that.
I'm actually curious, Sarah, just kind of thinking about, we're talking a lot about building the workforce of the future, bringing new talent into the workforce, diverse talent into the workforce with amazing skills coming out of Shree's institution as one example. And there's this moment that you probably deal with every day of the new talent, workforce of the future, who just got inspired by everything they heard at Shree's institution, is encountering the workforce of the present, people who are there today. And how are you, and what guidance might you give to folks thinking about how to guide that kind of onboarding and thinking about just moving to a place where we're thinking about data stewardship across, data lives all over Amazon, all over every company. Different people own those pieces of data, but to really derive insights, we need to have a culture of stewardship where we're sharing so that we can really understand the customer and the business. I'd love to just hear from you how you're thinking about that as you're bringing new folks in and creating that culture around data. And Sri, I'm then curious how that translates into the curriculum so students are ready to have that conversation.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of like good points and good questions, but immediately I think I need everyone on my team to be data literate, and their backgrounds, they may have never used data in their careers or in their education at all. However, I need that. And so as a leader, I empower all on my team to use data and not be afraid of modeling, even if they've never modeled in the past, not be afraid of massive data sets. And, I take the time to really empower initially and encourage. We obviously do a lot of modeling in Excel. However, in my experience, Alteryx was such a game changer for my career. And so I encourage and empower my team to model in Alteryx. And initially it can be really scary looking at like a blank white workspace. However, what individuals can do within Alteryx is so much greater than what they can do in Excel. And, they might look at me as if, I'm pushing them into one certain tool, but in my experience in doing that, what I have seen in individuals is they build models and derive insights that they never would have imagined that they were smart enough to do or smart enough to make a recommendation. And it takes one model and them being able to answer, one of my hard questions about labor and transportation at Amazon. It takes one question, and for them to find that answer, then they know it's almost addictive. Like they're ready to, answer the next question. They're like, what's the next question? What else can I build? What else can I model? How else can I make you smarter as a leader, make this company smarter? And I just have so many experiences of that and so many incredible stories about people whose backgrounds aren't necessarily in data and data analytics, but we've encouraged and empowered them to be in data analytics, and they're using that to make major business recommendations and business decisions. And it's truly so cool to see as a leader. And of course, it's benefit to the business as well. So that's really how I approach it. And it's probably my own leadership style, but like truly every person needs to be data literate.
I mean, I'm just smiling so much there as you're saying this, because it's so awesome to first of all, to hear your energy around this, but it's like, it's awesome for driving the business for sure. It's also awesome for employee retention and just people feeling good about the work that they're doing and the questions that they're solving. And it's just so empowering, whether it's Alteryx as a tool or other tools across different business problems. When you finally find the right tool to do the thing, and it's like, oh wow, this didn't need to take me 3 weeks. It could have taken me 30 minutes. And now I get to actually solve really interesting business problems. It's just really satisfying. So I love the passion that you're bringing to this. And I think your team is probably really lucky to be working with you as you're inspiring them to solve higher order problems and get unstuck from kind of the what is some folks say that the PhD and copy and paste in other tools. So Sri, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's wonderful. Jason, to your question, so one of the basic fundamental questions we ask of every student is, what's a value proposition we offer? There are two things. One, we help them advance in the career path, or we help them reset their career path. And the way our world, is becoming more and more digitized, the clear way is advancing someone's career path is making sure they can understand data and use that for informed decision making as part of their leadership. And so what we're doing especially in our graduate programs, is really kind of looking at that to build our decision making and the problem solving around data, and helping them get more comfortable about how do we use data, understand the data that's available in your organization, right? And be able to use that data to ask the right questions. And then we give them the training to be able to do that. But and we are embedding that as part of our program. We're also, what we're trying to do especially in our graduate program, is take them to visit different companies and see how they're using data. So it gives them the context to think about and saying, here we're using, for example, to set up any restaurant or Subway. That's a tremendously data-driven decision. And I didn't even realize the various sources of data, how much data we carry in our phones and how that data becomes critical in the decision making. But just to showcase the knowledge about what data is available, it's an incredible opportunity for us to do that. So that's one of the things we're doing, is bringing that into the curriculum. But we, as a part of the co-curricular activities, really taking them to different companies. And last time I'd taken a group of MBA students to Singapore, and here you talk about a digital world. I mean, entire highway system is being digitized. So any traffic pattern changes, they're able to model it, see how that impacts before they implement it. To even have that kind of a knowledge has been tremendously powerful for our students to think about that. And then with regard to resetting the career, that's the other option. What we are providing is that if somebody wants to change their career path into more of a digitally driven career path that allows them to grow, now we are able to provide that opportunity, both through either a degree program or a certificate program that brings this new skill set to them. Not only they have a background, as Sarah said, you could be in real estate. Now where you're dealt with a lot of data, but now we're adding some additional skill set to you that allows you to reset your career. So there's a couple of different ways we're bringing that about for students who are returning back to us. And as the undergraduate students, we already talked about it. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is really looking at more and more working with companies. What we're realizing is that good example is us as a university. we are going to see enrollment challenges. Demographic shift is evident, but how are we using that data for strategic decision making? So we set our infrastructure and the support system to move us in that direction. So those are the things that I think it's becoming more and more important. It's really working with local businesses and organizations to see, can we bring our knowledge, the faculty experts we have, to help your company look at the data that you already have and other data that may be available to become much more strategic and allow you to grow in the future.
I just completely agree with you. I would absolutely encourage educators to continue to partner with companies. It's so multi-beneficial. It's beneficial, of course, to graduates, but it's also beneficial to companies. It becomes a hiring pipeline of the exact type of candidate that companies are looking for. So I encourage that partnership and that relationship. Continue to work with companies, understand like the business problems that we have today that we're looking to solve with data. Like I said, there's truly like no shortage of business problems, but even like partnership around use cases and data sets and even just the ability to share, you know, current business problems and how we've used data and how we've modeled and how we have solved those. I think it really would help students understand and just apply their knowledge and, you know, their education, also their experience within different tools to just real life, real world, real business problems. So I encourage the partnership. I think it's so important that the challenges that you're presenting students with and graduates with are relevant to today's business issues.
I'm just going to take a brief pause here to go to the Q&A box because we've got some really interesting questions coming in. So first question, I think this is for Shri, from Sunita, says, Dr. Sundaram mentioned high school, community college and lifelong learning. So 1, how is the identification of critical skills gaps addressed in high schools? And 2, how can community colleges work together with universities in the 2+2 partnerships so that students coming into the university systems are better prepared for the workforce?
Great question, Julia. With the high school, one of the key things we're starting to work more and more is with our K through 12 in the school system here, helping to start partner with them even long before they come to the college. So we're starting to offer summer boot camps and other things that helps us to think about not just data skill set, financial literacy is a good entrepreneurial skill set. So we're starting to partner with them. So we're starting to begin to see the students ahead of time. And not only are we being informed with the knowledge that we gain through that interaction, but we also have great partnership with the leadership of K through 12. So we're able to work with them to see what are things that we can do that can enhance the skill set and offerings that we can provide even for the high school students when they are in high school. Because a lot of students, by the time now they come to our college, they already have anywhere from 20 to 30 credits. So they almost finish up a year worth of college, even in high school when they're there. The second part of the question is very much in regard to community colleges. What we are recognizing more and more is that a key pathway for us is to have established articulated agreements with community colleges. So what we're creating now is more and more 2+2 pathways we do a heat map of the community colleges that are sending us most of our students. Again, going back to using data, and then be able to look at it and saying, okay, these are where we need to have established advisors who can be there to help these students think through, take the classes that's needed. And we know we have an articulated agreement. Once they complete these courses, they will be ready to be part of that. The last thing what we're doing is they're allowing them to be part of, for example, in our accounting program, they're part of our Beta Alpha Psi, our accounting club. So those interactions also help us, very much to create that interaction with these students even before they come to our campus. And they feel like that it's not coming to a new program, but they already have an established relationship with us. So those are the pathways we're doing because we know that's a critical pathway, especially for business schools.
And Shri, maybe I'll just add, I'm really excited about opportunities to do exactly what you just said and partner with community colleges. I've been working with community colleges for many years in past roles. And I would say probably my favorite thing about the term community colleges is the word community, and thinking about really the impact that community colleges are making and potential for community colleges. And I've had some really exciting conversations over the last couple of weeks with community colleges talking about upskilling workforce, partnering with businesses, partnering with four-year institutions, and also looking at other populations, such as transitioning folks who are transitioning out of the military, as one example, who have amazing backgrounds, amazing talents, and are looking for skills to augment their experiences as they go into the workforce. So I think there's exciting opportunities for community colleges to both think about the credentialing aspect of things for folks who are going directly into the workforce, as well as, you know, that journey that you talked about, the 2+2 journey, Shri, where, but being intentional about creating moments where folks are learning kind of foundational analytics skills and credentials within that 2-year program, and then maybe there's exciting opportunities within the university to kind of accelerate that work toward, I think, some of the exciting topics around machine learning, AI, or whatever, but to really like turbocharge that, working with a student who already has, you know, baseline kind of foundational credentials.
Great idea. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. And we've got another really interesting question in the Q&A box. I think this one I might direct us towards Sarah, first of all, from Anne-Marie. How can we identify the skills that will be most in demand in the future, and what steps can we take to ensure that the workforce is equipped with these skills?
Great question. So this is, I feel like I've said this, and I guess I can't reiterate it enough. When it all boils down to what I'm looking for in terms of skills, I'm really looking for people who have used data to drive decision making. So how do we embed that into curriculum? How do we give students that opportunity to really utilize data to drive decision making? Of course, like I said, partnering with companies and understanding relevant business challenges of today. I also think what I love about the Amazon internship opportunity is you're presented a business problem at the beginning of your internship, and you are given all of the resources to do everything you can over those 10 weeks, I believe, to solve that business challenge. So students or interns are given the opportunity to ask questions, meet stakeholders, get access to relevant data, just really understand the problem fully. And then over the course of the internship, they write a document that goes through weekly reviews with different stakeholders, and they ultimately propose a solution. And in my experience with interns at Amazon, I've seen two full-term internships that we've actually taken the proposed solution and we've put that into like our processes and into the business. And those individuals were hired after their internship. I think often internships can be grunt work or, you know, not necessarily valuable, but finding those internships where we are empowering our students and our graduates to start the course of the internship with a problem and end the internship having proposed a solution is so valuable. And just the ability and the learning experience that comes as a result of doing that it makes that student such a valuable candidate. And really, like, that is what I'm looking for, because like I said, the industry or you know, the whatever you're planning is agnostic. Like if you have used data to build a recommendation and tell a story, I really believe that like you can be successful at any company in any industry, doing really anything. So I know it's not concrete. I wish I could give you like the concrete way to embed those skills into curriculum, but yeah, like I said, partnership with employers, encouraging and empowering graduates and students to use data to build a narrative and to drive a decision. And then of course, just valuable internships.
Maybe I can, Shri, I have a question for Shri, based on what Sarah just said. So, I mean, Sarah, first of all, I love the approach you're taking in terms of internships. It's really end-to-end experience of a student has finished a project that they can then, as they're building their portfolio of work and experiences, they have a thing that they accomplished within the internship, which is really awesome. So that's really, really exciting to hear. So Shri, we were talking about this, I think, before, but or before the event, but it's one thing for educators to be listening to the market and hearing what's happening, which is great. We all need our kind of board of advisors of commercial companies that we're working with to help us know where to go, what the future is going to look like. But it is absolutely another motion here to say, okay, how do I embed that into the curriculum in a way that's meeting the market need that's right in front of us, not, in other words, doing it at the speed that's necessary, especially right now where we're seeing kind of increased speed from market need to needing to hire. How are you thinking about that? I mean, it's a bit of a new, it's a shift for education in some ways.
Great question, Jason, and I'm going to respond to that. But Julia, I wanted a previous question. I also wanted to say, to add to what Sarah said, there's some really interesting reports that are out by, whether you look at PwC, the Workforce of Tomorrow, or if you're looking at World Economic Forum and others who are talking about the jobs lost and the transitions, but also the skill set that's needed for tomorrow. And that could be a great for your audience, that for them to take a look at it, see these are surveys globally done, and they're looking at, and it really talks very specifically about what Sarah is talking about, the technical skills, but also the storytelling skill set, the soft skills. Those are effective combinations. So I just wanted to make sure that there are some opportunities for them to take a look at. But coming back to Jason points out a great question. And the most recent Temple University president, Jason Wingard, has written a book on devaluation of the college degree. And to Jason's point, one of the challenges we have is we have trained people, our faculty, in a certain fashion. Curriculum changes are taking a dramatic amount of time, and in a world that's so dynamic, how do we resolve this constraint that we are living with? So two things that's happening, Jason, to that effect is that I've become pragmatic to say I'm not going to get everything done within the classroom. How can I start to build around the classroom that can be much more dynamic? So that's where the co-curricular activities are becoming much more critical. So the three buckets, what we're creating is that, I need to have the curriculum still be strong enough to provide the foundation on the data side of it. So which we are still, we have faculty that are very good at this. We just recently hired a faculty in economics with an AI background that's going to be able to come. Most of our faculty that we hired in the last couple of years are very strong in that area, but that's, they're helping us convert our curriculum. The second aspect is applying this in a practical setting. So giving them an opportunity to apply that through competitions, datathons, internships, to give them the confidence to know how to apply this, data skill set is the second part. And the third part is where we really are investing. A third of I'll look at is become more and more important is, how do I help them become confident in telling the story, to present this? So we're starting to add a presentation skill set, thinking about design thinking, so user perspective to bring to the problem solving. So that's becoming an essential component, and I'm able to control the second and third part much more dynamically than the first part, to your question. And so what I'm really looking at is a holistic view of bringing these three parts. So while the curriculum is taking a little longer, I can make some dynamic changes in the other two parts of it that helps them prepare a little bit faster and make them prepared for the workforce today as well as tomorrow.
If I can just add there, as you were talking, I was thinking, like, how could we do this? Like, how could we embed this into curriculum? And when I think about the business problems or business challenges that I'm solving today, they are often year-long problems. It takes a year to come to like, okay, we have identified a problem. Now we are going to work with stakeholders and put data around this and model and discuss insights. But these are definitely not problems that we're solving in a day. Of course, there are the small, easy wins, which we will definitely take. However, most take a full year or 6 months to solve. And so I think just setting our graduates and our students up to understand that that's what business looks like. It's not necessarily, you know, problem presented in class on Friday and solution presented in class the following week. So how could we look at a semester and you know, introduce a business related problem to our students and really give them the course of the semester to solve and really present that solution at the end of the semester. Like, I think something like that really mirrors my day-to-day. And I would hate for students to assume that it's that quick and easy, because it's really not. We're solving problems over the course of 6 months to a year in many cases. So I think something like a course like that, that's really tangible and allows a student that type of experience would be super valuable.
Fantastic. And I'd also kind of like to go back to Sri was talking about how they have kind of 3 distinct groups of learners, and one of those groups are the lifelong learners. So how can digital and skills-based education encourage lifelong learning and professional development? So in terms of micro-credentials, in terms of the fact that you can have asynchronous teaching and higher accessibility. And I'll let you pick the other things that it can help with.
Well, thank you, Julia. It is a crowded marketplace. So when we look at for our own college, what we realize is that we can offer a lot of this in a hybrid modality. The community that we're trying to build is, you know, there is plenty available through various, you know, whether you talk about LinkedIn or others, people can go, you know, gain skill set from courses, Coursera and things like that. Where we are able to create value is if we can look at Southern California, where we are, and we can really, you know, 3.5 million people reside here. If I can look at this target audience, say, how do I bring in people that we offer this curriculum online, but occasionally have immersive experiences that brings them in to our campus, or let's just say we go to Alteryx in Irvine, and the ability to bring them in and provide that skill set, additional skill set, that is where we are able to add value. So part of the question as a dean, I'm looking at it saying, what is it that truly I can do that helps build this, the lifelong learning, but who's the audience that I want to address? Among the 3.5 million, if I can tap into that audience here and cater to them, I believe I can truly do that rather than competing at the national or global level. I think that's the kind of value where we're looking at, is that how do we partner? And then it doesn't stop necessarily here. Now we have academic partnerships, whether it's in Vietnam or actually we are building a relationship with Northampton University. We're learning from them. You know, some of the things, what they're doing on social impact, they already have a mature framework process, how they collect data to be able to help companies to report on the ESG side of it. Here's how they're reporting it. So we're working with them to learn from them and be able to take it and bring it back here and help with that. So I think that's where we as an educational institution, you know, are able to do, is not only have our own skill set that we can provide to our audience here, but the ability to take it with our academic partners to other areas where we can bring our skill set, but at the same time learn from them, and also to work with corporate partners like, you know, Alteryx and Amazon. So that's our goal, is really to, you know, to work effectively with our partners to deliver this lifelong learning.
And Sarah, how do you facilitate lifelong learning?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I immediately think of my own experience. I studied communication. I went into commercial real estate, and my role was heavily coordinator and administrative and more marketing related. And I I got into an analyst role, and I had models really handed to me to own and run, and you know, from there make business recommendations about real estate decisions that major companies were making. And so I never thought that like data analytics was a possibility for me. And it has truly catapulted my career and completely changed the course of my career. So I would just encourage us all to think about it. It's not just the students who are currently studying STEM. Encourage all individuals to be learning within data analytics, encourage diversity, empower women and minorities to dive into data analytics. It's not simply people who've studied data analytics who can pick up on data analytics and really build teams. It's so important that we have that diversity in business today. The difference in thinking, the difference in approaches, the difference in education backgrounds, it's so valuable to have kind of that diverse background. So of course, I encourage lifelong learning. I am still learning. I still consider myself an analyst, even though I'm not necessarily in the models or in the data. And I encourage our educators here on the phone to also think of yourselves as analysts, and that will really empower your students to be analysts themselves as well.
Fantastic. And Jason, how does Sparked kind of encourage lifelong learning?
Well, I would just, maybe comment on some of what was said before, then add to it. I think it's really exciting to see Shri talk about, and many other educators that I have the good fortune of working with, talking about this shift in mindset from the university being kind of like the single source of truth, and to saying, actually, we need to take more of a network mindset here, where we are very good at many things, and that creates foundational learning. And we're going to bring in other partners along the way. And to me, that is really exciting in terms of the university having a really exciting business approach that is really putting their customer, the student, first in that scenario, right? We're bringing the best of, and then bringing that together into a holistic experience. That's an exciting, I think, evolution with where leading schools are moving toward. And I think maybe I would visualize that similarly as I was hearing Sarah speak, and think about some of the work that the Spark program is doing. As you're growing your career, all of us, even if we're in the same job year over year, all of us are career changers, in that our careers, whether we like it or not, our careers are changing because there's things changing around us. And it's really important, as we all navigate that, and as we help students navigate that it's not that you need to know everything or to be the expert in everything, but super important to think about where can you draw on skills or credentials or upskilling opportunities to complement the strengths, the value, the special things that you bring to the table, but complement them with knowledge across a number of different areas, so you know the right questions to ask, how to bring in the right people across the organization to complement the work that you're doing. And the Sparks program, it's really exciting, the work we're doing to support lifelong learning. We're not only engaging, of course, with traditional students, but more and more we're seeing individuals who are either changing jobs or who want to upskill within their current role, coming to us and taking advantage of some of the amazing content we have, which includes free learning pathways, some of which have nothing to do with our technology. They're all about just upskilling on data literacy. What does it mean to work with data? How do you think about asking the right questions? And of course, we have some amazing free training for folks who want to get actually certified on our technology. One thing I'm really excited about in terms of how we can better partner with universities, as universities are partnering with lifelong learners through continuing ed programs, graduate programs, certificate programs, et cetera, is that we've recently launched a data analytics curriculum program. So we've made it really easy for any educator to, knowing educators, Sri, no one's going to take our curriculum and copy paste it into what they're doing, because everyone has their thing that they want to do, which is awesome, which is the power of having really smart people in higher ed. But we have a good baseline that then you can think about, okay, here's what I want to do. Here's how that works with an Alteryx curriculum, and then make it your own, make it work for your students. But we're really excited about that because it is very clear that the trend line is accelerating very, very rapidly in terms of employers looking for analytics-enabled workers across their organizations. And so we have a moment here, and I think we are taking advantage of, we're creating this moment here to make sure that we're empowering this future of work that's going to literally change the careers of individuals, which is going to also change their families and the communities in which they live and work. And that's a huge opportunity for all of us to think about how we can make an impact. So I'm excited to be working with Sri and Sarah and everyone on the call today to be part of that journey together.
Amazing. Thank you. We've got just under 5 minutes left, so please, if you want your questions answered, get them in now. We do have one question that's just come up from Mamadou that says, have you considered program inclusion for individuals with developmental disabilities? So I think this would be in reference to kind of how you would support people with these accessibility needs in, having these workplace skills, getting these workplace skills and ensuring that they are supported as much as anyone else. So Sri, would you like to?
Yeah, I would love to. And this is, again, one of the things we realize very quickly is we can't do this alone. So we're working with, for example, all of you have heard about Goodwill. And a lot of us think about that's donating, clothes, furniture, etc. The true mission of Goodwill is actually helping differently abled folks be employed and developing the skill set. And so we have partnered with OC, Orange County Goodwill here, to start to think about how we can work with them to provide some of this training. And I think that's the way we'll be able to approach this, is going to be working with existing partners that have knowledge and the skill set and the infrastructure to support folks that are differently able, and work with them, say, how can we supplement that? And it's because some of them are going to be really good at handling data. And so what can we provide as a supplemental instruction that can help them and really help them with their career pathway? So I think that's the natural way we're looking at, rather than starting something on our own. I strongly believe that. I think it's, there are many organizations that exist. If we can partner with them, that will be a much more efficient and an effective way where we can bring our expertise and leverage the expertise they already have and the connections to the community that they already have.
Yeah, I'll just add quick, because I know we're close up on time. I'm so glad this question came up. I feel so passionate about this. I think it's so important that we are empowering individuals with disabilities, because what they can offer is absolutely as important as anyone without a disability. Amazon has a group, I believe it's called Neurodivergent at Amazon, and it is just people who have disabilities who are a part of Amazon, and there's just so much empowerment there. I think absolutely it is so important that we are inclusive and bringing those talents forward and just developing that. I think we could probably spend a whole hour series talking about that, but absolutely super important that we are, building the workforce and empowering those individuals as well.
Well, unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of the session. Although if you want to stick around for another hour webinar on what we've just been talking about, feel free. But it's been really great to have you join us today. You've been such a fantastic panel, and thank you to our fantastic audience as well. And thank you for your interesting questions. So I'd like to remind you all that there will be a recording available and a summary article published in due course on the Times Higher Education website. This will also be sent to you. And we hope that you found today useful and interesting, and we hope to be able to engage with you at future THE events. So thank you everyone so much, and goodbye.